to you.
Oh, you're recording now. Okay, good. Yeah, I just want to let everybody know today is National Plan a Vacation Day. My technical problems today were way worse than what we had to try and get this meeting started. So I really need a vacation. But anyway, I'm here to talk about why I ride. When I was 30 years old, I didn't know anyone who had cancer. I'm pretty lucky that it took that long to know anybody. The first person was me. I had a basal cell cancer. It was in the bowl of my ear. It's usually pretty benign and not a big deal. I had to have it surgically removed. It was my first time having surgery under anesthesia. I got to tell you, I was a little scared. I'm an eternal optimist, but I was afraid. That's you have cancer is not something you want to hear. So my wife at the time, Maureen, she was more scared than I was. So I had to kind of put on a brave face and make it not seem so bad, but I was really scared. When I woke up from surgery, I was so relieved, I almost vomited on a nurse. A year after that, a good friend of mine lost her mom to cancer. It was, I could feel her heartbreak. it was just awful. She actually put together a team for Relay for Life. So that was my first time dealing with ACS. We walked around a track at a high school for 24 hours. This has been when they did it all night. It was kind of cool. But I met a lot of people who had cancer or lost people to cancer. And it made me realize how scary it really can be. Second time I had cancer was bladder cancer. This one was a lot scarier. It was way more serious than a basal cell cancer. Maureen was there for me, and I don't know how I would have made it without her. But I just couldn't tell her how afraid I was. I was, it's one of these things, I don't want to die. I joined a support group, and that helped a lot. I could talk to people who were, dealing with the same kind of things I was, and I could say what I was feeling without, making them more afraid. I couldn't say that to my wife. But it also exposed me to, people with a lot of different kinds of cancer, and some of them didn't survive. It was rough. It was not fun. I had multiple surgeries. I had chemo. It took almost a year, and my body was changed forever. They took my bladder out, took a piece of my intestine, and made me a new one. Doesn't quite work the same as the original, but I'm still here. That was 2007. I had surgery. The third time I dealt with cancer, it wasn't me. It was Maureen. It was my wife. She was really scared. I was scared, but she was really scared. She was convinced she was never going to wake up from surgery. There was nothing I could do for her. Just be there. They did the surgery. They were only able to remove 70% of the tumor. I asked the surgeon afterwards, to give it to me straight, and he said she probably wouldn't last a year. She woke up so relieved that she'd made it through surgery that she was convinced that she was going to be like me, and she was going to beat the cancer, and she would be fine. I couldn't tell her what the doctor told me. What would be the point? 10 days later, the cancer grew back to just as big as it had been before surgery, and a few days after that, she passed away. My life was changed forever again. Over the years, too many friends and family have had cancer. Cancer scares, had cancer themselves, died of cancer. Two really good friends were diagnosed in 2021. One of them is now living cancer-free, living his best life. You're going to meet him in a few minutes. The other is just starting her journey. She expects 2022 to be worse than 2020 and 2021 combined. It's going to take all of 2022, and if things go well. Cancer affects all of us, whether we've had it or not. It's just scary. In 2012, I rode Pan Ohio for the first ride. I had really two reasons. I was riding in memory of Maureen, and I was trying to prove to myself that I could do this even after cancer. During that ride, I found myself riding alone for a while. It can happen on a long ride, and I actually did that on purpose. I spent that time thinking about Maureen, and I ended up bawling my eyes out while I was riding. I've ridden every year since, and now I have way more reasons. I ride because I want to help everyone who deals with this terrible thing we call cancer. From research into cancer treatments to helping people find a ride to those treatments, ACS does it all. The Hope Lodge has been very special to me. I first visited before my first ride. They had a dinner there the night before the ride, and I'm really happy that the money we raise this year will go to the improvements there. It's a great place. It's a place where cancer patients not only find a place to stay near their treatments, but also they get to talk to people who are going through the same thing. They can talk about their fear and help each other through it. I've met some wonderful friends through this ride, and I make more every year. It's incredible how many great friends I've made on this ride. It's really a special journey. It's one of the highlights of my year. I always find it time to be alone and think about Maureen, and I always cry. But I'm a survivor. I keep going. I met someone just as special as Maureen. She volunteers every year because it means as much to her as it does to me. Lori is my rock. We joined the planning committee to help make the ride more successful and more special to more people. It was at first it was about the ride for me, but now it's about the fundraising. That's what's important. If you want to get involved, you don't have to ride 320 miles. We have some awesome SAG people. They'll help you when you can't ride anymore. And like we used to say, we like to say, if you might not finish the ride on 2 wheels, so you might get in a SAG vehicle and finish on 4, and that's okay. You don't have to ride at all. We need lots of volunteers. If you can't do that, please consider a donation, because that's the important stuff. Cancer is scary. ACS and Pan Ohio help ease those fears for so many people. And I'll tell you what, during the ride, we actually have a lot of fun doing it. So thank you. I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you, Bill. Round of applause for Bill. Thank you so much for sharing, for your openness. Oh, Lori. This is why we ride. We grieve those that we've lost, and we celebrate those who survived. And Bill, I'm just glad to count you among the champions of hope that we celebrate, and I'm so glad you're here. So grateful for your dedication and commitment to making this even better as we move forward. Whatever that is for you, when you have a passion about a cause like that, it's an amazing feeling. Like Bill said, this ride, bringing together people like-minded like that to do something about it and to take our grief and turn it into celebration and turn it into hope. We make a huge difference out there on the road. And whether you're thinking about joining Pan Ohio this year, or you have another cause that's important to you, pretty much any charity out there probably has a bike ride going on, and it's a fantastic way to challenge yourself while raising money for the cause that you believe in. And I'm really excited to hear from our panelists today to empower all of you as to how you can do that and how you can do it well. And like I said, I hope that we all walk out of here tonight just feeling inspired and encouraged, that we can all go do a ride for whatever matters to us. And whether you're new at this or you're a seasoned veteran, there's something for everyone here. So just a couple quick points I want to point out. We don't have medical professionals with us tonight. We do have some coaches and trainers, but also some casual riders. So nothing can be construed as personal individual advice to you. And if you have any concerns about starting a training program, please do visit with your doctor or a personal trainer that's familiar with your own situation. But just take all of this as great advice that has worked for our panelists who have been wildly successful as cyclists, as coaches, and just as great people. And I hope we all walk away feeling inspired that we can ride as much as we want to ride for whatever cause is near and dear to us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our hosts, let our hosts introduce our panelists. You just met one of our hosts, of course, Bill Woolahan. We're delighted to have you back hosting with your friend, Jeff Darple. I'll let you introduce yourselves, or Jeff, you can introduce yourself, and then the two of you can introduce our panelists, and let's hear it.
Hey guys, Jeff Darple. I've been doing the POHR ride for, golly, what is this, year 12, I think. It was a year right before Bill did his first one, so I can't remember the math anymore. But anyway, I've been around for a long time. I did all the in-person events up until COVID. I missed last year because I was dealing with my own battle with cancer. As Bill alluded to earlier, I am now cancer-free, knocking on that wood hard, and we are traveling around the United States, currently in Southern California, and enjoying the countryside and hitting as many national parks and seeing as much cool stuff as possible. Living out of a camper, and that's me. Bill, I think you're on mute.
There we go. There's that button. You've already met me. I told you my story, so let's move on to our panelists. I'm excited about it. Do we have a slide for that? There we go. Yeah, so we have three panelists tonight. Carrie is last year was her first time riding, so she's going to give you a perspective of people who aren't people who ride 1 million miles every day. Maria is a personal trainer, coach. She's a competitive cyclist, so that'll be interesting to hear from. And Chris is also a coach, so they'll all three have some good advice for you. So
and actually, I hate to interrupt that. It looks like maybe Maria did not make it back on. So if she joins us, we'll let you know. Yeah, we're not sure. So we will totally lean on Chris and Carrie to get started. And the other thing I want to mention, sorry, we want this to be interactive. So if you have any questions or other thoughts, feel free to drop it in the chat. And we want a conversation around this as well. So feel free to drop questions in the chat at any time, or your own thoughts and feedback on what's going on in the conversation. But yeah, I think as of now, we'll let you know if Maria is able to join us, but we will hear a lot of great stuff from Chris and Carrie in the meantime.
Cool, thanks, Stacy. Hey, let's take a quick minute to give the panelists a moment to introduce themselves and tell us how they got into cycling. So Carrie, if you're out there, ladies first, if you want to go.
I'm Carrie. My first year riding was last year, like they said. I am a hobby cyclist, so I don't ride hundreds and hundreds of miles at a time. I got into cycling because a friend of mine did cycling events. Most of my fellow teammates will know him, Murray Fischel. He's a good friend of mine, and we would go on rides with him, and that's how I met all of my fellow teammates, is through him. And POHR, I always do something. It started out as I always do something to challenge myself. I've been skydiving, I've taken weird courses, so this was like, it started out to be that kind of thing. But I too am a cancer survivor. So now, yay.
All right, thanks, Carrie. Chris, would you like to go next?
Sure will. Good seeing you too, Jeff. Actually, you're living my dream. I hope to be someday day to be traveling around in a camper too. That sounds awesome.
Don't wait too long in life, man. Do it
I
now
hear
while
you.
you can.
Yeah, there you go. So my name's Chris Witzko. I've been associated with POHR. I think it's going on 7 or 8 years now. Like Jeff, I forget the actual number of years, but I think it was 2014. I got my initial start, but I got involved in it just because I've always been an enthusiast of health and wellness, and kind of like Carrie, looking for different challenges and looking for a way to give back at the same time. And so happened to be at a business event and was talking with a guy, and we were just kind of sharing kind of things that we did from a health and wellness standpoint. And he'd mentioned this bike ride, and I had done some cycling. I was just kind of do it as more of a hobbyist too. And he kind of challenged me to it. He's like, well, if you're in such great shape, you should be able to just hop on the bike and at least do a couple of days. So my first year, it actually was only a 2-day ride just to make sure I could make it. But after that, I definitely got the bug, and have been riding ever since, and got a great team behind us now with a lot of passion and just love for what we're doing for giving back to people.
Thanks, Chris. So we're going to start with some questions. And this is probably a good one for Carrie, because it's more recent for her. What advice do you have for riders just getting started with cycling?
The biggest piece of advice I can share to you is something that it took me a bit to understand, and it took a lot of my teammates to help me understand that it's okay if you don't ride all of one day, or if you stop and sag to the next rest stop and ride some more. You just need to try to remember that this is fun and not be so hard on yourself. That's the biggest thing, is just remember that there is no too little amount to ride. You can ride a mile, you can ride 5 miles, you can ride 10 miles. And if you have to catch a sag, you have to catch a sag. But it's just, the being a part of this, it really is kind of a really big family. That's my advice.
Chris, I know it's been a while for you since you started riding, but I'm sure you help, new riders on your team every year. What advice do you have?
The biggest thing I always tell people who are thinking about or committing to it is just think of it as 20 to 25 miles at a time. Break up that, that day into the rest stops you get, and just the mindset is just get to the next rest stop. And, like Carrie said, hey, if you get to the next rest stop and you just don't have anything left in the tank, then it's okay to sag, right? But just the mindset of just making it to that next stop is all you got to worry about. And at the same time, and this is what helped my daughter when she rode with me for the first year, is just keep thinking about all the people we're riding for, and all the pains you're feeling, and the tiredness and everything else just seems to not bother you as much anymore once you understand why you're doing it, who you're doing it for. Kind of just putting that the mindset in the right place too.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here, Bill, because I just got a message that it looks like Maria, unfortunately, will not be able to attend, but Brent Evans has graciously agreed to provide backup for her. So, Brent, thanks for jumping on and helping us out. You want to give a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And hello, my beloved POHR Hope Ride family. Hope everybody is doing well. Quick background, 13 years on the POHR Hope Ride, 13 best rides of my life, and USCF or USAC coach, former professional road racer, race cyclocross and gravel and mountain bikes. But the POHR Hope Ride is my love letter to the cancer community, especially people like Bill. So inspired by your story. But would love to throw in a perspective here because I think the most amazing thing about Pan Ohio is that everyone and anyone rides it. The fact that I have a background in it, and I did it as a profession for a while, means nothing. I'm so inspired by people who say, I'm going to do this ride because I can, because I want to, and because I'm going to ride for those who can't. And what I've just heard from the two panelists before me is that it is the reason and meaning, and also being okay with knowing that whatever you can do that day is incredible. And, you know, the fundraising gets you to the ride, and certainly you want to do well in the ride, but you have to remember the purpose of the ride. And I think that really is what should inspire you day in and day out.
That's great, Brendan. Thank you. And I couldn't agree with you and the other two panelists as well. I'm going to throw out a question here, really for any of you guys, and maybe for each of you, because this is, you know, endurance event type of panel that we're having. So how do you guys prepare mentally for those long days in the saddle? Anybody jump in?
You know what? I'll jump in. My mindset, I guess, is just really, you know, a couple of miles at a time, and try not to get into your own head. I know some of you are great to be alone, or some of you are not great to be alone. So if you know you're that kind of person that can't, you know, ride alone and be in your own thoughts, then, you know, try to buddy up with somebody on your team. But really, it's just about breaking it down into smaller chunks. Like they said, you know, keep it, you know, 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever gets you to the next step. Before you know it, the rest stop is there, and you get some water and get some snacks.
Yeah. Piecemeal it a little bit at a time, right?
Yep. Same way you eat an elephant.
That's right.
Right.
You know, I think a lot of people go into any event, whether it be competitive or you know, a fundraising ride, and they think about, again, the whole elephant, as you've just mentioned. And I couldn't agree more that you have to manage your resources. You have to constantly be checking in, but you're not going to ride all 328 or 85 miles at once. And when I did ride 328 miles all at once in one ride, you know, I honestly had to take it hour by hour. I had no idea what was coming. So to do something that you feel is so daunting, you have to literally just think, well, can I make it to the next water stop? Somebody will be waiting there for me. I can talk to them. I can sit down. But even in a cyclocross race that's 1 hour, yeah, you're probably going to finish because you've trained for it. But the first 15 minutes makes you think, what, you know, I might not make it the whole hour. And then it's 20 minutes, and then it's 25, and then it's 30. And so the thing also that you need to remember is whatever you've put in the tank before you got to the event will carry you through. And maybe you've never ridden 85 or 100 miles, one of the longer days in the Pan Ohio, but you have ridden 15. You have ridden 30. So rely on that to get you 15 more miles or 30 more miles or 40 more miles down the road. And it really is a positive spirit, and also finding other people who are in the same boat, and you're going to do it together.
So talking about riding those, go ahead, Chris, do you want to say something?
No, I was just going to reiterate kind of what I had said before about, you know, when I introduce people to it is, you know, when you do hit those tough days or those kind of blocks, it's hard to overcome, is just, again, understand and remind yourself, you know, why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, who you're riding for. Mentally, for me, that really helps get past those really tough days.
So, you know, talking about riding, you know, being able to ride 15 or 30 miles or whatever, how, you know, if somebody is at that, you know, where, you know, 30 miles is a long ride for them, and, you know, They can get started in April or May or whenever, you know, the snow melts. What's your goal? I mean, you don't train for a marathon by running 26 miles at one time. So what do you work up to, you know, for the you know, the months and weeks before the ride? What's a good goal to have if you want to ride the whole 328 and, you know, you want to be in shape for that? What's a reasonable goal to do, you know, in the weeks and months before that? Chris, start with you.
Sure. You know, for me, it's really a year-long process, right? And the weather conditions where you can't ride, you still should be focusing on where's that power coming from, right? How are you going to drive those pedals? What's going to make the legs move? And so for me, that's a lot of strength conditioning that I do in the off season, focusing on my core strength. You know, I throw an upper body too, because I don't want to look, you know, just like a ton of muscle in my legs and nothing on top. So I work on upper body too. But, you know, a lot of that that conditioning throughout the year off the bike makes a huge difference when it comes time to start getting in the miles. And then, like you said, it's just a matter of getting in the mileage where you can. You know, honestly, for me, I never really do a super long ride as part of my prep. I just break everything down into 20, 30 miles at a time. And then, you know, maybe do a couple back-to-back days of 20 to 30 miles. But yeah, for me, that's a lot of that conditioning in the off season is the biggest key for me.
Brent, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. I definitely agree with that. I think you need to do what you find joy in. So is that hiking? Is that, you know, I know people that ice skate in terms of training for a lot of similarities in the muscle groups used in speed skating and cycling. But what can you do to stay active and stay relatively fit? And also, what can you do for long periods of time, not necessarily sitting on a bicycle, but, you know, going out for an hour or 2-hour hike and maybe challenging yourself a little bit, because that, again, that mental, you know, fitness is usually what you need when it's summertime, it's very hot, and you're just trying to make it the next 15 miles to the water stop. So can you do things that give you reference points is what I like to say. You know, or can you do an event beforehand, a 50-mile tour or something like that, that gives you a reference point that allows you to say, okay, I did a long hike, I did a long ride, and that's really important in terms of how I approach this. Also, I like to tell people, work backwards from your event date. I'm sure that everybody agrees, if you're looking at being prepared and you've got 8 weeks or 12 weeks or 40 weeks, right? You know, how do you break up those weeks, and how do you break them up into 2-week periods of being really good about your fitness, and then maybe having a few days in between to recover? And what I mean by being good about your fitness is just consistently thinking about, have I walked 3 times this week? Have I gotten on my bike 3 times this week or 2 times this week? And when I coached 24-hour mountain bike racers, I would say, I know you want to go for 8-hour rides this weekend, but can you give me at least an hour, 3 days a week? I know you're working, I know you have kids, but can you give me an hour? Because it's frequency, right? You want to be frequently active versus doing one big ride or one big hike on the weekend. So can you do a 20-minute walk or ride? Can you do an hour? It seems silly to get geared up to only sit on the bicycle for 30 minutes. But I promise you that frequency is more important in terms of getting neuromuscular memory back and training to be in the right spot, you know, when Pan Ohio does come around.
So that really mirrors what Chris mentioned earlier, and he does multiple 20, 30-mile rides and not necessarily one big chunk. It's just repetitive. It's
frequency, and then you add duration. You know, you can go in a pyramid, and that you want to build in some endurance and strength before You build power before you build speed, you know, if you're going to be a competitive cyclist. So think about how frequently have I been active, and then bumping up the duration. And by the way, your body can't tell mileage at all. Your body can tell how long you've done something and how hard you've done something. And that really is what registers with your body. So do it more frequently.
Okay, great. Good to know. Thank you. Kind of on that same line of thought, is there anything that the three of you like to do in particular to stay fit and ready for longer distant rides like this in the off season? So wintertime, I know it's challenging. Chris talked a little about weight training. Brent, you talked about hiking, but is there anything that really strikes a beat for each of you that help you get ready and feel ready throughout the year?
Well, I can say that I know that I try to hit the gym, you know, fairly regularly. And I do a lot of concentrating on muscle toning, not necessarily, you know, to try to bulk up or anything, but just to keep, you know, as much strength, like Brent mentioned, you know, in your legs, in your core, or maybe that was Chris, I can't remember, but sorry. But I find that if I alternate my workouts, I don't always do the same thing. So if I'm at the gym, I'll be doing the bike one day, I'll be doing strength training on my legs a day, I'll do the stair climber a day. So, you know, you're working several different kinds of muscle groups. And in response to Lucinda's question about hills, definitely the strength training is going to help that. So however you can get your strength training in is absolutely crucial for me.
Chris or
So
Brent,
here's
do you
a-
have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a variety of, types of exercises to do, right? I just find one that helps you really with bigger muscle groups, I guess is a good way to put it, especially for cycling. Your hips, quads. Squats are a great workout move to do. And squats you can do with body weight, you can do with a very minimal weight. But just from one exercise that I wouldn't say if you do one exercise, but that one, if you really want to get the results when you're getting on the bike, the squats is a great move to do.
So we have a question in the chat about preparing for hills. In northern and central Ohio, you don't get a lot of hills. When we get down towards Cincinnati, there's a lot more. How do you prepare for that if you don't have a place where you can hit a lot of hills?
So I would throw into that. I started bicycle riding seriously in Bowling Green, Ohio, the third flattest part of America. And it turned out I was an extremely good climber. So what I would say is if you live in a windy area or on days where it's windy, here's the thing. It's very mentally challenging anybody can go uphill because they know there will be a top. But if you're riding in the wind, you're not really sure when that's going to end. So I've taken a lot of people out and taught them how to climb. And it's, pacing yourself and finishing the climb faster than you started it. And if you have a windy day or a windy area, go out and ride in the wind, embrace it, and pretend that it's the same type of resistance as climbing. So if you don't have that natural terrain, I would highly recommend that you embrace the wind and go out and ride into the wind to start your ride and really see, what it's like. I would also say, just real quickly, bouncing back, Bill, I'm sure that everybody has been on a bicycle ride, whether it's Pan Ohio or not, and didn't feel like their legs were the weakest link. Probably their back or their core or their neck. So what was mentioned previously by Chris and Carrie, absolutely. Develop strength. I'm rehabbing right now, 34 years of competitive racing, and I have a lot of imbalances that I've built up being bent over a bicycle as a single plane athlete. I don't have a lot of agility. I don't move side to side. I do a repetitious activity. So again, if you, I'm not even using weight, or I'm using very little weight. If you just do the movement, if you do squats without weights, but you focus on really good form, you know, if you do a little bit of core work, and you don't have to be hardcore, if you take, you know, 25 minutes, that can make a huge difference to how your legs work. So I think excellent comments in terms of developing, you know, better bodies instead of just being a cyclist, you know, focusing only on riding.
Well, speaking of wind, day 3 is traditionally, just, I don't know why, but it's always the windiest day. A little teaser, we're changing the routes up a little bit this year. We'll hear about that more later. Yeah, training into the wind is a great idea, because I don't know how many rides I've been on where it's, you know, you're riding into the wind both ways. Chris, do you have any tips for riding into the wind?
Put it in the lowest gear. It is seriously, like Brent was saying, it's like climbing a hill, but I mean, at least at the hill, you know where you're getting to the top, right? The tough part with the wind is it could be constant for miles and miles. So it definitely is a good test of endurance and power in your legs. So yeah, you know, get down as low as you can on the bike, you know, to cut down on resistance is a big thing. But you know, that's really where that leg strength and endurance really comes to a test, is hitting into those winds for sure.
My tip is to get behind Bill and let draft off of him, and that usually works pretty well for me.
Good advice.
Yeah. So we have another question in the chat. Let's address that. So, and I was thinking about this a moment ago as well. So the importance of hydration, not only before the event, but during the event, as well as not only hydration, but, you know, the proper nutrition. Do you guys, any of you have anything that you know, specifically focus on when it comes to nutrition and hydration when you're preparing for something like this?
Yeah, one of the things that I've done for years as a health coach, and we use Advocare products is the one I choose to go. And there's a lot of great products out there, but I found out that they really have a great line of performance products that are perfect for endurance events like this. So getting the right, you know, branch chain amino acids in your system helps you with your, not only your current, you know, endurance, but even recovering, which is tough when we're doing 4 days of riding. So not only being prepared for that day, but getting ready for the next day. I mean, there's a lot of different, you know, products and supplements that you can take, but for hydration, I love the gels, you know, sticking the gels in the back of your jersey and getting a couple gels into you during the day, in addition to water too. But the gels provide a really quick, nice little boost in the energy, and gives you good hydration too. So that definitely, the importance of products for me is just, it's huge. It's one of the things that kept me, I guess, more engaged in this than I ever thought I would be, is be able to get up that next day and be able to, you know, to ride another 80 miles or so after I just completed, you know, 70, 80 mile days. So huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. Carrie or Brent, any thoughts on that?
I definitely am very bad about the hydration thing. So I'm actually looking to take tips from everybody else, because even during my normal life, I don't drink nearly enough water. So it's a bad habit I have. So You know, drink before you get thirsty, because if you wait till you're thirsty, it's too late.
Yeah, Carrie, that's excellent advice. My number one tip when coaching people is if you want to be a good bike racer, drink before you're thirsty, eat before you're hungry, which is a wonderful license while you're out there. So you need to make the water bottle your friend. Whatever you have in it, make sure that you're getting a lot of hydration from that and not dehydration. And too much sugar can lead to dehydration unless you're burning through it. So the important thing is, I believe it was mentioned, I think Kelly, you said, be hydrated before the event. Your hydration for Pan Ohio starts a minimum a week out. And that's just being conscientious. You're going to go do some really big ride and you need to be hydrated. And so making the water bottle your friend, making sure you're taking in electrolytes, not just water. I could tell lots of stories about all the products that I've used over the years, some better than others, but also just great basic food. Are you eating good food? Are you eating fuel? Or are you eating things that are really going to cause GI distress and not allow your body to process water while you're riding, right? So make good choices, super important. There, again, so many products out there. Don't ever do anything on race day or ride day, especially Pan Ohio, that you haven't tried before. If you've used a certain product and it works really well for you, bring those along with you, right? Lots of wonderful things are offered on Pan Ohio, but it's not the time to say, hey, I think I'm going to do 25 milligrams of caffeine in a gel and see how that works for me. That could go really well, or it might not go well. So don't do a lot of things different than your normal routine, so that your body, while it's under stress, while it's in the heat, is not trying to cope with something that you've thrown a curveball at it, and you're expecting it to really, go above and beyond the call of duty to get you to the end of the day.
So Randy just put
Yeah.
something into the chat saying, he has a reminder on his bike computer to every 10 minutes it tells him to drink, and it's, what is it, every 45 minutes to eat. And to your point, Brent, about not eating, not doing something different on race day. There's all kinds of stuff available on the ride on Pan Ohio, but what kind of without getting into specific products, what kind of stuff do you when you do your training rides? What are you drinking? What are you eating? Is it just water? Is it Gatorade? Is it something else?
So from the guy who used to be addicted to orange Gatorade and chocolate power bars way back in the day, just a quick little fun fact. I did Pan Ohio 2020, 328 miles, and I didn't have any spaceman food. I didn't have any gels, any bars, anything. It was all real food that we prepared to get me through that. And it turned out to be a savior. But definitely an electrolyte, whether that's a capsule or a drink that you use. Really important to not just be pouring water through your body. And again, experimenting with that in advance to make sure that you're happy that it works well for you. And here's the amazing thing: even if you're an elite athlete, you probably can't put in enough water after the ride. I think the only way in studies that they've shown, if you've really gone through a heavy sweat day, and if you weighed yourself before the ride and after the ride, you could lose 6 pounds or more. The only way to put that back in is through an IV, which obviously we're not doing. So orally, you need to just be drinking and drinking and drinking to try and replace, a good portion of that. But just always thinking, have I gained all the water back that I sweat out, or all of the electrolytes or sodium? So I think that's really important to think of. If elite athletes struggle with this, all of us struggle with that as well. The interesting thing as well, post ride, and anybody else jump in here, but it's a 3-to-1 carbohydrate to protein solution that they know works best within 20 minutes after your ride. If you do a really stressful ride, you should, within 20 minutes of ending that activity, try to get that into your system, because that's your maximum absorption period. And then within about an hour or so, have a decent meal, a well thought out meal, not one where, well, I must have ridden really hard, so I'm going to eat a lot of stuff that I'm craving. Again, it's fuel for your body. And if you can fuel it at the right time, you will get the most out of it as well. So some type of solution that will give you that carbohydrate protein balance that works well to get the glycogen stores replenished in your liver and in your muscles as quickly as possible. That's the key, and that's what I do. If you're asking specifically, I immediately get off the bike, find water, mix up the solution, and drink it right away, so that my body has the first thing it requires.
Chris, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was exactly, kind of the thing I do too, in terms of the supplements and stuff we take. We've got a post-recovery workout product that exactly does what Brent's talking about, and it's definitely key. I wouldn't recommend, doing like 3 beers and a protein powder shake. I don't think that's what Brent has in mind in terms of carbs and protein. So just a heads up. I see some people jump off the bike and get a beer right away, but that might not be the best way to replenish the carbs.
I did see an article. It was in Bicycling Magazine a few years ago, and I saved it because this is important to me. It said they compared different things to drink after a ride, and they said Gatorade makes these products that are supposed to be really good for you after a ride, but they said a dark beer was actually had a lot of stuff in it that that Gatorade doesn't. So they said drink one. I usually go for 2 or 3.
I'll tell you a quick thing. During one of the Cleveland marathon half marathons, this was maybe 5 years ago, there were people on the route that were giving out beers to the runners. And I don't normally like beer, but the small amount of beer that I hit at mile 10 really was kind of a boost because of the carbs and stuff in it. I hate beer, but it got me through the end of the race. I don't recommend it for riding though.
Yeah, or your first beer ever. Maybe that's not the time for that.
Right. No, don't do that.
So let's think about that really quickly. You get this different stimulus at that point in time. It's a beer, or it's something to take your mind off of the suffering. And again, I think everyone has said essentially that, do you have a friend you're riding with? Do you have a purpose for riding? Do you have a memory? I've cried every day of the Pan Ohio for 12 years, and I'm sure I will this coming one. But food also can be a great positive, or a drink. Do you have something you've saved until that time that you need it? And it could be a gel, it could be a cookie, it could be, whatever really gets you excited. But do you have that kind of stimulus to say, if I make it to mile 55 or whatever, I get to have, right? I've been carrying it in my pocket, or I know they're going to have it at the rest stop. It's little mental positive games that you play, and you can attach that to something like a song or a food or something you get to drink, right? So I'm sure, Terry, in that marathon, that beer was a whole change of pace for you in terms of, I didn't really anticipate this would be part of my strategy, and that probably made you giggle mentally and get through that effort with a little bit more joy, right? So can you plan that into your ride, whether it be training or Pan Ohio? And I've done that myself. I've carried along a specific item, and I get to have this at a certain time, and that's going to lift me up.
So we've been talking about, how to make sure we stay hydrated and proper nutrition. Worst case scenario, you're not following that. guideline and things start to happen to your body, what are some of the symptoms, guys? Brent, if you want to talk about this, like bonking or dehydration, heat exhaustion, that kind of thing. If your body is starting to react negatively to being in the saddle for too long, what would you see? What do you expect?
Well, I'll start, and I definitely want Carrie and Chris to jump in. And I think we talked about this last year when we talked about riding safety. And that was, are you getting chills, but it's a hot day? Are you, I think they said in the comments, are you not sweating anymore? Is it not dripping off your brow, or are you not responding normally? Also, are you having a hard time? Are you experiencing any type of vertigo? Are you having a hard time focusing? I've many times gotten off my bicycle and sat under a tree and thought about what I was doing, why I was doing it, if I wanted to keep on doing it. So I think when things start to seem off, cycling is a very dangerous activity, let alone all the other factors out there. That's why they put swimming first at a triathlon and cycling and running. If you think about it, it goes in order of liability, right? If you fall off your bicycle, it's not as bad as drowning because probably somebody can assist you. So if you start to feel that you are reaching too far beyond your grasp, on a bicycle is not necessarily the place to do that, especially when you have 4 days in a row. It is great if you can identify, or I believe as mentioned last year, checking in and literally saying to a friend, how you feeling? How you doing? And they ask you the same question back, right? It's a buddy system. So everyone will go through a bonk, or everyone will go through a flat period, and how you deal with it and allow your body to recover versus make it worse, right? If you're making it worse, as Carrie said, if you're dehydrated and you didn't drink enough, it's too late. And too late meaning you need to take some time off. You need to stop the activity you're doing and not push through. Carrie or Chris, do you have things to add?
What I would like to add is not only to pay attention to not sweating, chills, and all the signs of dehydration, but make sure you're paying attention to the pain. If it's my biggest signal that I need to back down or take a break or stop, for me, there are certain places that when there's pain there, I know I need to stop. I know I need to take a break. I know I need to sit for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. Listen to your body. It will be the first indicator of what you need to do next.
Yeah, that's good. I think the other thing too is don't avoid training in hot days, right? Take advantage, and when you get the time to do training, pick some really hot days that you're like, I don't want to go out and do it, right? But you'll get a good indication then of how your body responds. You can kind of plan out the day, distance wise, to see how you handle the distance with the heat. And so definitely make it part of your training regimen to incorporate some of those days where it could be really a struggle once you get out on the Pan Ohio.
Yeah, and rainy days too.
Yeah.
Your chances are we're going to have a rainy day during 4 days of riding. Don't avoid riding in rain all year, and then your first opportunity to ride in the rain is you got to do 80 miles. So speaking of that, what do you carry on your bike? And especially during training, because where you don't have a sag, a lot of people train by themselves. What do you carry on your bike to make sure that you have, in addition to water and food and whatever you're also drinking, what else do you carry on your bike just to make sure that you're safe? Anybody jump in?
Yeah, I know some people feel like all they need is a cell phone. But I would disagree with that. I one time had such catastrophic mechanical failure that I made my 3 phone calls and nobody was home. So, and this is prior to cell phone days, but any bike shop or someone who's done Pan Ohio can definitely give you recommendations. I have a saddlebag with 2 tubes always. If you need both tubes, that's great. If you loan a tube to somebody, that's even better. A multi-tool, a patch kit, tire levers, and knowing how to use these items. So find a friend, find a shop that is willing to say, here's how you change a tire. I wouldn't let my wife go on a ride. My wife is a competitive cyclist now. I wouldn't let her go on a ride by herself until she could change her own tire, because you just never know. And sometimes you have to fend for yourself. I also have money. A lot of people ride, and have a credit card, but some, machines that vend water when you really, really need it don't, they take dollar bills and change. So knowing how to operate the devices that you have on your bike, I always carry a pump. Some people carry CO2s, but if that CO2 isn't used properly, pumps normally 99% of the time always will fill up your inner tube with air. And then I always ride with emergency contact information. I have a dog tag that I've ridden with since 1989 when I went over to Europe for the first time, and it has all my critical information on it, and I wear it every ride. Something that if you are in need of help, people will be able to call that person that you need. So important things. I also, to go one step further, I have a crash detection device on my helmet, and have done so for I think over a decade now, and it will alert my contacts of my location should I have a crash, and they can give that information to first responders. So a lot of wonderful technology out there, but the basics are, can you fix your bike or get yourself home?
Yeah, I think the other thing too is, if you can, don't ride by yourself. I know it's convenient to be able to just go and pick up and ride, but it's always better to have somebody with you just in case too. And if you can't do that, then it's nice having these phones with the apps on it where people can track you and find your location. So I'll typically do that with my wife if I'm going to be out doing a long ride, and even though she knows the path I'm going, she'll check in and make sure, hey, he's still moving, right, and still making progress, and can check in that way. So those the apps on the phones are a great way to make sure somebody's looking out for you.
Yeah, Lori and I have the Life 360 app, and we actually keep it on all the time, both of us. But we started doing that because I was on the MS ride, and somebody got hurt, and she didn't know if it was me or not. So we immediately put that app on, and whenever I'm out riding, she can tell. As long as my little head's moving, she's happy. All right, we need to kind of wrap it up here. So let's give any final thoughts you guys have. We'll go back to ladies first. Carrie, you can start us off.
Just the biggest thing is just remember the point of this is to raise money for ACS and to have fun. I struggled a lot last year, my first year. I beat myself up because I wasn't riding as many miles as I thought I should be. Who that should was judging was only me, apparently, because nobody else cared if I rode or not. So just try to remember that, it's fun. And just do the best you can do, and that's all anybody's going to ask from you. None of these people that you're riding with are going to judge you at all. They're just going to hug you, and you're going to make a whole bunch of really, really great friends.
I think for me, it's just it's great when you can start bringing others along with you year after year, and then they tell a couple friends, and then they tell a couple friends, and all of a sudden you've got a nice group of people all joining together with you. So I think for me, that was probably the most surprising and rewarding thing that came from this, is all the people who saw what I was doing and said, I want to be a part of something like that. So just to be able to step out of your comfort zone and set the example for others and see who follows you.
Yeah, Chris and Carrie, I think those are beautiful things to think about. And I think we all need to remember that this is 4-day sleep away fantasy bike rider camp, family reunion that travels across the state. And so when you get there, do yourself a favor and give yourself the best chance to have a wonderful time, and also be of help to others, whether you're that person saying, hey, we can go 5 more miles or 1 more nick. Do something for yourself as well as the fundraising, and that's go for bicycle rides. Go to the bike path if you're concerned about riding in the rain, and ride in the rain to see what that's like in a safer environment, and plan to succeed. Give yourself enough time, and there will be barriers. There will be things that come up. You got a cold, things got really busy at work, you were caring for somebody and you missed days or weeks of training. But start early, do as much as you possibly can, and ask for help. Everybody wants you to succeed. There is somebody on that ride who wants you to succeed just as much as you do, if not more. And ask for help, whether it's daily or in advance, or understanding how to prepare yourself, or how to use the tools that will fix your bicycle, or how to be taking care of yourself nutritionally or mentally. And that is the beauty of the Pan Ohio Hope Ride. It is one big family, so much love. And oh, by the way, we get to ride bicycles. And that's truly, truly it. There is no greater event that you'll ever do on a bicycle. And I can say that after 34 years of doing a lot of events on different continents. So help yourself be successful. Do as much as you can beforehand, so when you show up, you can enjoy it even more. And you're probably going to learn a whole lot about yourself on the journey.
Well, thank you all very much. I really appreciate your time and sharing your thoughts with us. You're all wonderful people, and can't wait to ride with you again.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Stacy,
So much good stuff. Thank you so much to everyone just for your time tonight. And again, thanks for everyone's patience with us getting started. I'm glad you stuck with us. Thanks as always to Jeff and Bill for hosting, and to our amazing panelists, Carrie and Chris, and to our pinch hitter tonight, Brent Evans. Thank you so much for stepping in with that perspective that Maria would have brought. Hopefully we can bring her back for another session. We do want to provide you with tons of resources. Again, whether you're riding Pan Ohio or preparing for another event that's meaningful to you, you're welcome to join our community in any way you want to. And we are going to be putting together some training resources that we'll be sharing. Some of the links that were shared tonight, I know Sarah shared in the chat all the links to last year's engagement series. We actually had one solely dedicated to winter training. So if you didn't hear what you wanted today about, Zwift or Peloton, spin classes, indoor training, or how to ride outside, we did a whole series on that last year. That's also kind of relevant now. There's another great series about wellness and nutrition and some other training tips, plus a safety talk. We'll have another one coming up. But in addition to joining us each month for these, hope that you'll go back and listen to some of the past recordings too. Some fabulous advice. Our coach, Carrie McCoy from Just Try, is also revamping a training plan that she's done for us in the past. So in the coming weeks, you'll be receiving a 22-week Pan Ohio training plan. If you choose to follow that, that'll start in mid-February. She also has a 10-week plan. So if you get a little behind or you're doing other things and you want to ramp up as the event gets closer, we'll be sending those out together with lots of links and resources. And again, the whole point of this is for it to be safe for everyone, fun, and meaningful. I can tell you from personal experience in my years of Pan Ohio, those of you who know me know that some years I show up in decent shape and fairly well trained, and other years I show up like I haven't been on a bicycle since last July. And you can still do it, you can still grind through it, but I will say it is a lot more fun when it doesn't hurt as much. So I do encourage you, you can do this. We have plenty of time to get ready. Let's make it as fun and safe as we can and less painful. So anyone can do this. I'm so happy to hear from all of you tonight. Do want to share just a couple quick event announcements, and I think Kristen is going to be getting ready for a raffle, but I'm just going to share a couple quick things here before we do that. I promise I will keep this brief. couple things, we are hoping very much. Our plan this year is that we are returning to a traveling event from Cleveland to Cincinnati. We're hoping to have some big announcements tonight, but we are just finalizing some details, but just want you all to know to watch out for some exciting news coming to you by the end of the month. So, we expect on Monday to be able to finalize some things, to be making some great announcements about our plans for this year's event. And we also wanted to share registration options. We do have some new guests with us tonight. So if you're already registered, that's awesome. But you can share this too. We have some more flexible options this year. So if the 4-day event is not for you yet this year, we actually revised our rates and our minimums for 2-day and 1-day riders, and obviously the mileage on those varies depending on which day you choose. We also have the create your own 328 option if you want to just ride your miles on your own over the entire month of July, or you can sign up now as a Pan Ohio supporter for free. A lot of our volunteers do this, and it's awesome because they're still giving their time and serving and being a huge part of this event, and it gives them an opportunity to set up a dashboard and collect money as well for their efforts. Plus, it keeps them in the loop with all our announcements. So you can go ahead and sign up at POHR.org. And if you are new to Pan Ohio, before you go sign up, please go email panohioinfo@cancer.org because we have a special 50% off discount on any of those registration levels for first-time riders this year. Also wanted to mention that we are still running our Gift of Hope. We started this during the holiday season, but there are plenty of other gift-giving events coming up. I know people who have birthdays coming up, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day. If someone might want to ride Pan Ohio, you can gift them a registration through our gifting website. And we've also established a fund where you can gift an anonymous registration. And if someone has a need, they want to ride Pan Ohio, but they have a financial need and can't meet their registration, they can email panohioinfo@cancer.org and we can match them up with some of those scholarship gifts as well. If you're interested in gifting or a scholarship, also just email panohioinfo@cancer.org for information. Also wanted to remind everyone that is registered that we have our spring fundraising challenge. It started January 2nd and it runs through 328 Day on March 28th. And if you raise $500 in that time period, you're going to earn 15 incentive program points. And then I also wanted to remind everyone of ways they can connect with us and share a new way we have to connect. So as always, you can follow American Cancer Society Pan Ohio Hope Ride on Facebook. We also have Instagram and Twitter going on. And then we also have local Facebook groups where you can connect with other participants in your own markets. So there's a Northern Ohio, a Central Ohio, a Southern Ohio, and then also a special group for out-of-state riders. And then we also have a special group for new riders. If you're brand new to Pan Ohio Hope Ride, so you can connect with other new riders and get all your questions answered. And one of the other things we're kicking off right now is a Slack workspace as just another way to stay in touch, stay connected, catch all the announcements, and have a lot of conversation. So if you are interested in joining our Slack workspace, you can email me. That's stacy@bearmoose.org, and I can get you the invite link to that. Again, we have channels for all the different markets. We have channels for fundraising tips. We'll be sharing all these training tips there, and you can have a lot of great conversation back and forth. Once the weather gets nice, we're going to be sharing some information about outdoor rides that people can join. In the meantime, we may be doing some Zwift meetups for people that own that, and just a great way to stay in the loop and catch all of our info. So with that, hope to see you all next month. Our next enrichment series coming up on February 22nd. We'll focus on fundraising tips and tricks. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen to do our raffle drawings. Again, a registered rider is going to win some incentive points, and one of our guests tonight is going to win some awesome swag.
Oh, thank you guys for being here with us. I'm going to grab the new participant, our new guest, Chris Barrand. So Chris, I believe he did have to bow out just right after the panel discussion, but he was emailing me earlier for the information. So I will get with him so that he can get his swag bag. So congratulations for that. And now our Pan Ohio participants for 15 incentive program points. Sean McLean. Congratulations on winning our attendance raffle. Thank you for joining us.
Is it just weird if Sean win like every time? Sean's a big winner. I mean, he won some wearing the 328 points today too. Well done, Sean.
Yeah.
I guess I'm playing the lottery tonight. I'm all right.
Yes, go. Yes. That's amazing.
Thanks, everyone.
And everyone who attended from Pan Ohio, you'll of course get your participation or your 2 points for being here as well for that. So thank you so much.
And we will stick around if anyone new is still here and has any questions about our event specifically, or just wants to hang out and socialize. Stick around for a bit and chat. So you can all come off mute, chat, throw out your stories, and we'll stop recording now so you can ask your real questions about the beer.
Hey, Carrie, I saw Ed duck in there. He's riding with us this year, right?
That is his plan. Yes.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yep. So we're trying to keep each other going because, you know,